Hi all, welcome to today's session. Today we will be studying excretion. Before that, we have to study some of the questions that has been part of the transportation. These questions. First question, what are the components of the transport system in human beings? The transport system in human beings consists of heart, blood vessels. Heart pumps blood throughout the body. Blood transport oxygen, food, hormones and wastes. Blood vessels that include arteries, veins and capillaries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins bring blood back to the heart and capillaries allow exchange of substances between the blood and tissues. So in human beings, the components of transport system includes mainly heart, blood and blood vessels. Heart pumps the blood throughout the body and blood vessels that include arteries, veins and capillaries. Arteries, what will arteries do? Pulmonary artery. Think about pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery will pump blood from the heart to lungs. So arteries help in pumping of blood from heart, whereas veins help in the coming or pumping of blood to the heart. Capillaries allow exchange of substances between bloods and tissues. And capillaries are one celled thick. They help in the exchange of substances between blood and tissues. Then blood transport. What is the role of blood? Blood helps in the transport of oxygen, food, hormones and wastes. So what does blood transport? Blood transport oxygen, food, hormones and wastes. Why is it necessary to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in mammals and birds? Mammals and birds need a large amount of energy to obtain a constant body temperature. Complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood ensures an efficient supply of oxygen to body tissues. This helps in releasing more energy through respiration. So why is it necessary to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in mammals and birds? Because the mammals and birds need a large amount of energy to maintain constant body temperature. We human beings are mammals and birds also. Our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. We need to maintain a constant body temperature. For maintaining that constant body temperature, our energy source is very high. We require a large amount of energy. Complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood ensures an efficient supply of oxygen to the body tissues. This helps in releasing more energy through respiration. So what happens? Since there is complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood will helps in more efficient supply of oxygen to the body tissues, and as a result, if more oxygen is coming, what will happen? The more energy will be released through respiration. More oxygen means more energy will be released. So oxygenated and deoxygenated, the separation of this oxygenated and deoxygenated blood will provide a large amount of oxygen, and this oxygen will lead to a large amount of energy through respiration. What are the components of the transport systems in highly organized plants? The transport system in highly organized plants consists of xylem and phloem. So the transport system consists mainly of xylem and phloem. Xylem helps in the transport of minerals and waters from roots to different parts of the plant, whereas phloem helps in the transport of food prepared in leaves to all parts of the plant. So phloem helps in the transport of food, whereas xylem helps in the transport of water and minerals from root to different parts of the plant. How are water and minerals transported in plants? Root cells actively absorb mineral ions from the soil. Water enters the root by osmosis. Water and minerals move upward through xylem vessels and tracheids. Root pressure and the transpiration pull help in the upward movement of water and minerals from roots to leaves. So, how water and minerals are transported in plants? The root cells. The root cells actively absorb mineral ions from the soil, and as a result, what happens? The concentration of minerals in the root increases and concentration of minerals in the soil decreases. And when the concentration of minerals decreases, the concentration of water increases in the soil, and concentration of water inside the roots decreases. As a result of osmosis, water moves from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. So water moves from from soil to roots. The root cells actively absorb mineral ions from the soil, and as a result, water enters the roots by osmosis. Water and minerals move upward through xylem vessels, and the water and minerals that are move upward in the xylem through xylem vessels and the xylem tracheids. This root pressure and transpiration pull helps in the upward movement of water and minerals from roots to leaves. So, from roots to leaves, if the minerals has to be transferred, then minerals or water has to be transferred. It has to undergo either root pressure or transpiration pull. How is food transported in plants? How is food transported in plants? Food prepared in leaves is transported by phloem. This process is called translocation. Sucrose is loaded into phloem using ATP. So food is prepared in the leaves, and this leaves or the food prepared in the leaves has to be transported by phloem. This happens by a process called translocation. Sucrose is loaded into phloem using ATP, and as a result of using ATP, sucrose is loaded to phloem. Water enters the phloem by osmosis or creating pressure. This pressure transports food to roots, stem, fruits, seeds, and growing regions according to the plant's needs. And this pressure transport food to roots, stems, fruits, seeds, and growing regions according to the plant's needs. Water enters the phloem by osmosis, creating pressure. This pressure transport food to roots, stems, fruits, seeds, and growing regions according to the plant's needs. NCERT keywords to include and answers: heart, blood vessels, oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, xylem and phloem, osmosis, transpiration pull, translocation, ATP, sucrose. Now the next topic is excretion. Next topic is excretion. What is excretion? During life process such as photosynthesis and respiration, organisms produce waste materials. Okay. During photosynthesis and respiration, during certain processes, there is chance that waste materials are produced. Waste material is produced. Besides gaseous wastes, many metabolic activities also produce nitrogen containing wastes that must be removed from the body. So, beside the gaseous wastes, metabolic wastes are also produced. These metabolic wastes are nitrogen containing wastes that must also be removed from the body. Okay. Waste is formed as a result of photosynthesis and respiration, and also other than gaseous wastes, there will be nitrogen containing wastes that must be removed from the body. Excretion is the biological process by which harmful metabolic wastes are removed from the body. So, by the process of excretion, harmful metabolic wastes are removed from the body. How do different organisms excrete wastes? Unicellular organism and multicellular organism. Unicellular organisms removes waste by simple diffusion through the body surface into the surrounding water. So unicellular organism, they removes wastes by simple diffusion through their body surface into the surrounding water, whereas multicellular organisms are complex and therefore use specialized organs for excretion, whereas multicellular organisms like us humans use specialized devices or specialized organs for excretion. Excretion in human beings. Excretion. So excretion, we have already discussed that how organisms get rid of gaseous wastes generated during photosynthesis or respiration. Other metabolic activities generate nitrogenous materials which need to be removed. The biological process involved in the removal of these harmful metabolic wastes from the body is called excretion. Different organisms use various strategies to do this. Many multicellular organisms remove these wastes by simple diffusion from the body surface into the surrounding water. As we have seen in other processes, complex multicellular organisms use specialized organs to perform the same function. So, in the case of unicellular organism, they release their excretory products directly to water by just simple diffusion. But in the case of humans or multicellular organisms, there are specialized structures or specialized organs to perform the same function, that is excretion. Excretion in human beings. Human excretory system. The human excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder, a urethra. Location of kidneys, 2 kidneys are present. The human excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and a urethra. Location of kidneys. 2 kidneys are present. These are located in the abdomen. 1 kidney lies on each side of the backbone, path of urine. Urine is formed in the kidneys. It passes through the ureters. It is stored in the urinary bladder. It is expelled from the body through the urethra. So what all the human excretory system consists of? The human excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and urethra. Just go to the figure. In figure you can see a urinary bladder is there, urethra is there, and the kidneys are there. This is left kidney and this is right kidney, and renal veins are there, left renal veins, renal artery. Now vena cava is there, left urethra is there, aorta is there. But the human excretory system consists of a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder. So here you can see that a pair of ureters are there. This is the ureters. Then a pair of kidneys. These are the pair of kidneys, a urinary bladder and a urethra. This is urethra. So these are the major parts of human excretory system. Location of kidneys. Two kidneys are present. Okay. They are located in the abdomen. One kidney lies on each side of the backbone. So you can see here. There are two kidneys are present. And these kidneys are present beside the backbone. Are located in the abdomen and lies on each side of the backbone. Our backbone, we know we can touch our backbone, and our kidneys are located on each side of the backbone and it is located in the abdomen. Path of urine. Urine is formed in the kidneys. Urine. Where is urine formed? Urine is formed in kidneys. It passes through ureters. It is stored in the urinary bladder. It is expelled from the body through urethra. It is expelled from the body through urethra. So where does the urine is formed? The urine is formed in the kidneys, and this urine passes through ureters, and this is stored in urinary bladder, and it is expelled through urethra. So urine gets formed in kidneys. It passes through ureters and stored in urinary bladder, and from urinary bladder to urethra. Path shown in figure. Left renal artery, left kidney, left renal vein, aorta, vena cava, left ureter, urinary bladder and urethra. How is urine produced? The main purpose of urine formation is to remove waste products from the body, from the blood. So why the urine is created? The urine mainly is created for removal of waste products from blood. Now the waste products which are present in the blood are carbon dioxide and nitrogenous wastes such as urea and uric acid. Carbon dioxide is CO2 that is removed from blood in the lungs, and nitrogenous wastes such as urea and uric acid that are removed from blood in the kidneys. So the main wastes present in the blood are carbon dioxide and nitrogenous wastes. The carbon dioxide is removed from the blood in the lungs, and the nitrogenous wastes such as urea, uric acid are removed from blood in the kidneys. So the carbon dioxide is removed from the blood in the lungs, whereas the nitrogenous wastes such as urea and uric acid are removed from blood in the kidneys. Nephron, the functional unit of kidney. Just as the lungs contain tiny structures of the filtration of gases, the kidneys contain tiny filtration units called nephrons. Just as the lungs contain tiny structures of filtration of gases, the kidneys contain tiny filtration units called nephrons. Structure of a nephron. Each nephron consists of glomerulus, a cluster of very thin-walled blood capillaries. Bowman's capsule, cup-shaped structure surrounding the glomerulus, collects the filtrate formed from blood. Tubular part of nephron, a long coiled tube through which filtrate flows. Other parts associated, branch of renal artery, branch of renal vein, capillaries collecting blood. Labels, glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, tubular part of nephron, branch of renal artery, branch of renal vein, capillaries and collecting duct. So nephron is the functional unit of kidney. Just as the lungs contain tiny structures for filtration of gas, the kidneys contain tiny filtration units called nephrons. So the kidneys contains tiny filtration unit called nephrons. What is filtration? Filter paper. You know filter paper. Why is filter paper used? If you are pouring anything or a solution means containing undissolved solutes, when passing through a filter paper, the undissolved solutes gets deposited in the filter paper. You know that when chai making, the entire tea powder will be in that filtrate. Chai making. So a filter paper or a filter will be there, and that filter separates all the tea particles from chai. Similarly, the kidneys contains tiny filtration units that are called nephrons. Structure of a nephron. Each nephron contains glomerulus, a cluster of very thin-walled blood capillaries, Bowman's capsule, and tubular part of nephron and other parts associated. The first part is glomerulus. Glomerulus is very thin-walled blood capillaries. So in the figure you can see thin-walled blood capillaries. Here you can see thin-walled blood capillaries, and this is called glomerulus. A cluster of thin-walled blood capillaries, and Bowman's capsule is a cup-shaped. This is Bowman's capsule. It's a cup-shaped surrounding the glomerulus. Collects filtrate formed from the blood. Tubular part of nephron, a long coiled tube through which filtrate flows. That is called tubular part of nephrons. Tubular part of nephrons. A long coiled tube through which filtrate flows. Other parts associated: branch of renal artery, branch of renal vein, capillaries, collecting duct. Here there is a collecting duct and also branch of renal vein and branch of renal artery. Also capillaries. Glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, tubular part of nephron, branch of renal artery, branch of renal vein, capillaries and collecting duct. Steps in urine formation. Filtration. Blood enters the glomerulus, water and dissolved substances are filtered out. The filtered fluid is called filtrate. The Bowman's capsule collects the filtrate. Selective reabsorption. As filtrate moves through the nephron tubule, useful substances are reabsorbed back into the blood, including glucose, amino acid, salt, major portion of water. How much water is reabsorbed? It depends on the amount of excess of water present in the body, the amount of dissolved wastewater that needs to be excreted. So how much water is need to be reabsorbed? The amount of excess water present, the amount of excess water present in the body, also the amount of dissolved waste that needs to be transported. Formation of urine. After useful substances are reabsorbed, the remaining fluid become urine. Urine from many nephrons collects in the kidney. Movement of urine. Excretion. Removal of from kidney to bladder. Urine formed in each kidney enters a long tube called ureter, and the ureter connects the kidney to the urinary bladder. There are one pair of ureter. Storage. Urine is stored temporarily in the urinary bladder. Urine is stored temporarily in the urinary bladder, and urination. As the bladder fills, it expands. It expands. Pressure of the expanded bladder creates the urge to urinate. Pressure of the expanded bladder creates the urge to urinate. Urine leaves the body through urethra. So as the bladder fills, it expands. One minute gets it's getting sleepy. As the bladder fills, it expands. Pressure of the expanded bladder creates the urge to urinate. Urine leaves the body through urethra. So what happens? Blood contains certain substances, harmful substances that need to be eliminated. So when the blood reaches the kidneys, that substances are eliminated. What happens? The kidney receives or separates that materials into urine. So after the formation of urine, urine is formed in each kidney and there's long tube called the ureter. The ureter connects the kidney to the urinary bladder and from urinary bladder to urethra. So the storage of urine is properly done in urinary bladder, and from the urination, as the bladder fills, it expands. Pressure of the expanded bladder creates the urge to urinate. Urine leaves the body through the urethra. So urine leaves the body through urethra. Control of urination. The urinary bladder is muscular. It is under nervous control. Therefore, humans can usually control the urge to urinate until an appropriate time. So, control of urination. The urinary bladder is muscular. It is under nervous control. Therefore, humans can usually control the urge to urinate until an appropriate time. Excretion. Removal of metabolic wastes from the body. Human excretory organs. Kidneys, ureters, urinary bladder and urethra. Nitrogenous wastes removed by kidneys, urea and uric acid. Functional unit of kidney, nephron. Parts of nephron, glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, tubular part, capillaries and collecting duct. Useful substances reabsorbed are glucose, amino acids, salts and most water. Urine pathway, kidney to ureter to urinary bladder to urethra to outside body. Urination is controlled by muscular urinary bladder under nervous control. So, excretion in human beings. The excretory system of human beings includes a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, urinary bladder, and a urethra. So, here you can see a pair of kidneys and a pair of ureters and urinary bladder. Sorry, this is urinary bladder and urethra. Kidneys are located in the abdomen, one on either side of the backbone. Urine produced in the kidneys passes through the ureters into the urinary bladder where it is stored until it is released through the urethra. Simple. The kidneys produce urine. Urine is transported through ureter and to urethra it reaches urinary bladder and from urinary bladder to urethra. Okay. How is urine produced? K U U U. This is kidneys. This is ureter. This is urinary bladder. This is urethra. Okay. How is urine produced? The purpose of making urine is to filter out waste products from the blood. Just carbon dioxide is removed from the blood in the lungs. Nitrogen wastes such as urea or uric acid are removed from blood in the kidneys. So, the carbon dioxide from blood to be removed and this happens in the lungs. Also, there are some waste materials that are harmful to the human body, that are urea and uric acid. This urea and uric acid are to be removed from the urea and this happens in the kidneys. It is then no surprise that the basic filtration unit in the kidneys, like in the lungs, is a cluster of very thin walled blood capillaries. So it is then no surprise that the basic filtration unit in the kidneys like in the lungs is a cluster of very thin walled blood capillaries. So in the kidneys, this filtration occurs in thin walled blood capillaries. In a cluster of thin walled blood capillaries, that is called capillaries. Cluster of very thin walled blood capillaries. Each capillary cluster in the kidney is associated with a cup-shaped end of the coiled tube called Bowman's capsule that collects the filtrate. And each capillary cluster in the kidney is associated with a cup-shaped end of a coiled tube called Bowman's capsule that collects the filtrate. So here you can see that the filtration. Nephron, the functional unit of kidney. The structure of nephron. Nephron consists of glomerulus. Glomerulus is a cluster of very thin-walled blood capillaries. That cluster is called glomerulus. And this glomerulus is enclosed within a cup-shaped structure surrounding the cup-shaped structure. And this cup-shaped structure is Bowman's capsule, BC. So inside the Bowman's capsule, this very thin walled blood capillaries or cluster of very thin walled blood capillaries are present, and that is called glomerulus. So inside the cup shaped Bowman's capsule, what is present? Glomerulus is present. Tubular part of nephron, a long coiled tube through which the filtrate flows. A long coiled tube through which the filtrate flow. That is, the tubular part of nephron means it is a very long coiled tube, and through this tube what flows? The filtrate flows. In the figure you can see this. This is Bowman's capsule. This is Bowman's capsule. This cup-shaped structure. And the glomerulus is this cluster of thin capillaries. And inside the Bowman's capsule, what is there? Glomerulus is there. And this is the tubular part of nephron. This is a long coiled tube through which the filtrate passes. Then other parts associated are branch of renal artery, branch of renal vein, capillaries, collecting duct. Glomerulus. It contains, the nephron contains glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, tubular part of nephron, branch of renal artery, branch of renal vein, capillaries and collecting duct. Steps in urine formation. First one is filtration. The filter unit is glomerulus, and glomerulus is found inside Bowman's capsule. The blood enters the glomerulus. Water and dissolved substances are filtered out. The filtered fluid is called filtrate. The Bowman's capsule collects this filtrate. So blood enters the glomerulus. Water and dissolved substances are filtered out. The filtered fluid is called filtrate. The Bowman's capsule collects the filtrate. Now the selective reabsorption occurs. That is, as filtrate moves through the nephron tubule, useful substances are reabsorbed back into the blood, including glucose, amino acid, salts, a major portion of water. So after filtration, the filtrate, that is, the filtrate contains that chemical substances that needs to be removed. This filtrate moves to tubular part of nephron, and in this tubular part of nephrons, what happens? reabsorption, selective reabsorption of useful substances takes place. That is, it includes glucose, amino acids, salts, a major portion of water. How much water is reabsorbed? It depends on the amount of excess water present in the body, the amount of dissolved waste that needs to be excreted. How much water is reabsorbed? It depends upon the amount of excess water present in the body, the amount of dissolved waste that needs to be excreted. So the amount of water that is reabsorbed depends upon the amount of excess water that is present in our body and the amount of dissolved waste that needs to be excreted. And the formation of urine. After useful substances are reabsorbed, the remaining fluid becomes urine. Urine from many nephrons collects in the kidney. And after the reabsorption of that useful substances, the remaining fluid becomes a urine. This urine from many nephrons collects in the kidney. Movement of urine from kidney to urinary bladder. Urine moves or urine formed in the each kidney enters a long tube called ureter. The ureter connects the kidney to the urinary bladder. Storage. The urine is stored temporarily in the urinary bladder. So where is this formed urine stored? It is stored in the urinary bladder. Urination. As the blood fills, it expands. As the bladder fills, it expands. The pressure of the expanded bladder creates the urge to urinate. And as a result, the bladder expands. And when the bladder expands, what happens? It has a capacity up to which it can store the urine. After that, it becomes elastic and it becomes expand. And after a particular time, we have seen that if we blow a balloon and that balloon is full of air, after a saturation point when the air is very high, it will become more elastic and at a point it will burst. But urinary bladder will not burst, don't worry, but it gives a signal before bursting or signal that it is very urgent to pee or urgent to urinate, so that the urine stored in it leaves the body through urethra. Control of urination. The urinary bladder is muscular, it is under nervous control. So urinary bladder is little muscular, it is under nervous control. Therefore, humans can usually control the urge to urinate until an appropriate time. So up to a particular time, if you have an urge to susu, it will control. But after that particular time or appropriate time, it is not possible to hold. Each kidney has large number of these filtration units called nephrons packed close together. Some substances in the initial filtrate such as glucose, amino acids, salts and a major amount of water are selectively reabsorbed as the urine flows along the tube. The amount of water reabsorbed depends on how much excess water there is in the body and on how much the dissolved waste is there to be excreted. The urine formed in each kidney eventually enters a long tube, the ureter, which connects the kidneys into the urinary bladder. Urine stored in the urinary bladder under the pressure of the expanded bladder leads to the urge to pass it out through the urethra. The bladder is muscular, so it is under nervous control. So we have discussed elsewhere, as a result we can usually control the urge to urinate. Here you can see in the figure branch of renal vein, capillaries, collecting duct, tubular part of nephrons, glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, branch of renal artery. Now artificial kidneys. Artificial kidneys. What are artificial kidneys? The kidneys that are artificially made is called artificial kidney. It is also called hemodialysis. Hemo means blood. Dialysis means we can see it in this paragraph. Kidneys are essential for survival. Their activity may decrease because of infection, injury, reduced blood flow to the kidneys. So kidneys are very essential for survival and their activity may decrease because of certain infection that happens to the kidney or certain injuries or reduced blood flow to the kidneys. When kidneys did not function properly, poisonous nitrogenous wastes accumulate in the body. This become life threatening. So guys, let's take a short break and we can continue after 10 minutes. Welcome back, guys. Why is an artificial kidney needed? Kidneys are essential for survival. Their activity may decrease because of infection, injury, reduced blood flow to the kidneys. So, kidneys are essential for survival. Their activity may decrease because of infection, injury, reduced blood flow to the kidneys. When kidneys do not function properly, poisonous nitrogenous wastes accumulate in the body. This can be life threatening. In case of kidney failure, an artificial kidneys can be used. So, when kidneys do not function properly, poisonous nitrogenous wastes accumulate in the body. This can become life threatening. Okay, we know some people may have been associated with the kidney failure or they need kidney transplant. So, why does kidney fail or why is the kidneys does not work properly? This may be due to infections or certain um, injuries or reduced blood flow to the heart. Sorry, blood flow to the kidneys. So when kidneys did not function properly, poisonous nitrogen wastes accumulate in the body. This can become life threatening. In case of kidney failure, an artificial kidney can be used. What is an artificial kidney? Artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? It's artificial, not original. So when come to artificial kidney, what does it mean? It is not an original kidney. This is artificial kidney. An artificial kidney is a device that removes nitrogen wastes from the blood through a process called dialysis or hemodialysis. So what do artificial kidneys do? That removes the nitrogen wastes from the blood through a process called dialysis or hemodialysis. You may be heard that process, that is dialysis or hemodialysis. That means it is the process of using an artificial kidney to remove the nitrogenous wastes from the blood. What is the function of a kidney? To remove nitrogenous wastes from the body, such as urea, uric acid, etc. So, in the failure of kidney, what happens? These nitrogenous wastes accumulate in the body. So, it will create more severe consequences in the body. So, what do you have to do? You have to remove these nitrogenous wastes out of the body. So, what we can do if the kidney is failure, we will do that work with an artificial kidney. And in that case, what we call it a dialysis or hemodialysis. How does hemodialysis work? Artificial kidneys contain many tubes made of a semi-permeable membrane, a tank filled with a dialysing fluid, and the dialysing fluid has the same osmotic pressure as blood, does not contain nitrogenous wastes. How does hemodialysis work? The structure. The artificial kidneys contain many tubes made of a semi-permeable membrane, a tank filled with dialysing fluid. The dialysing fluid has the same osmotic pressure as blood, does not contain nitrogenous wastes. So artificial kidneys same similar to normal kidneys or original kidneys. What is artificial kidneys have? They have many tubes made of semi-permeable membranes and a tank filled with a dialysing fluid. Dialysing fluid. The dialysing fluid has the same osmotic pressure as blood and does not contain nitrogenous wastes. Has the same osmotic pressure as blood and does not contain nitrogenous wastes. So, working of hemodialysis, the blood is taken from the patient's artery and passed through the tubes of the artificial kidney. Step 2. As blood flows through the tubes, waste products diffuse through the semi-permeable membrane. This waste enters the dialysing fluid. Step 3. The blood gets purified. The purified blood is pumped back into the patient's vein. Okay. Here it is the image of a dialysis. Here you can see that in this way. First, the blood flow through artery to a pump. This is a pump, and from artery the blood is pumped to a chamber made up of selectively permeable membrane or tubes made up of selectively permeable membrane that acts as an artificial kidney. And here what happens? Here dialysing solution will be there, fresh dialysing solution and used dialysing solution with urea and excess salts. So what happens is that when this blood comes in contact with the dialysing solution or fresh dialysing solution, osmosis occurs and the nitrogenous wastes such as urea and uric acid will get converted into a used dialysing solution, and the purified or separated or filtrated blood, that is purified blood, goes to this pump and is pumped through a vein, line from apparatus to vein. So vein, what will vein do? Vein transfer this blood from this artificial kidney to the person who, the body of the person who is doing dialysis. So what happens? Blood is taken from the patient's artery and passed through the tubes of the artificial kidney. As blood flows through the tubes, waste products diffuse through the semi-permeable membrane. These wastes enters the dialysing fluid. The blood gets purified. The purified blood is pumped back into the patient's vein. Difference from natural kidney. This process is similar to kidney function because it removes wastes from blood. This process is similar to kidney function because it removes wastes from blood. However, it differs from a real kidney because no reabsorption occurs during dialysis. In natural kidneys, useful substances and much of the water are reabsorbed. But in the case of artificial kidney, the no reabsorption occurs during dialysis. This process is similar to kidney function because it removes wastes from blood. However, it differs from a real kidney because no reabsorption occurs during dialysis. In natural kidneys, useful substances and much of the water are reabsorbed. Important fact: in a healthy adult, about 180 liters of initial infiltrate. In a healthy adult, about 180 liters of initial filtrate are formed every day. Only about 1 to 2 liters of urine are excreted daily. This is because most of the filtrate is absorbed or reabsorbed in the kidney tubules. Look at the capacity of kidney tubules. About 180 liters of initial filtrate are there, but only 1 to out of this 180 liters, only 1 to 2 liters of urine are excreted daily. That means nearly 170 to 175 liters are filtrated or reabsorbed in the kidney tubules. Artificial kidney or hemodialysis. Kidneys are vital organs for survival. Several factors like infections, injury, or restricted blood flow to the kidneys reduce the activity of kidneys. This leads to accumulation of poisonous wastes in the body, which can lead even to death. In case of kidney failure, an artificial kidney can be used. An artificial kidney is a device to remove nitrogenous waste products from the blood through dialysis. Artificial kidneys contain a number of tubes with a semi-permeable lining suspended in a tank filled with a dialysing fluid. This fluid has the same osmotic pressure as blood, except that it is devoid of nitrogenous wastes. The patient's blood is passed through the tubes. During this passage, the waste products from the blood pass into dialysing fluid by diffusion. The process occurring here is diffusion. The purified blood is pumped back into the patient. This is similar to the function of the kidney, but it is different since there is no reabsorption involved. Normally, in a healthy adult, the initial filtrate in the kidneys is about 180 liter daily. However, the volume actually excreted is only a liter or 2 liter a day because the remaining filtrate is reabsorbed in the kidney tubules. Think it over again. Organ donation. What is organ donation? Organ donation is the act of donating an organ to a person whose organ is not functioning properly. Organ donation. Will you donate your organs? Type in the chat box. Organ donation is the act of donating an organ to a person whose organ is not functioning properly. Who can donate? Donation can be done with the consent of the donor and family. People of any age or gender can become organ or tissue donors. So, if I am donating my organs, there should be the consent of mine and also my family. I should give permission that my organ you can take my organs, and also my family members also have to give the consent. And also, people of any age, there is no restriction of age. It may be 1 year, the baby may be 1 year, the baby is 5 years, if the child is 10 years, if it is 15, 20, 30, 60, or there is no restriction of age for organ donation. And also there is no gender restriction. Any male or female can donate, or TJs can donate their organs and tissues. Importance of organ donation. Organ transplants can save lives, greatly improve the quality of life of patients. What is organ transplantation? Organ transplantation is a surgical procedure in which an organ is removed from a donor. The organ is transplanted into a recipient whose organ has failed due to diseases or injury. Organ transplantation is a surgical procedure in which an organ is removed from a donor. The organ is transplanted into a recipient whose organ has failed due to disease or injury.